Hello 108 students, welcome to section 6.2 where we are going to practice working our skills on factoring trinomials, and we'll take on page 1 here on this video. Okay, so trinomials. How many terms are in a trinomial? Answer 3. The form for a trinomial, if you look in the book, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. Let's not let this mess with us at all. The x is your variable. A, B, and C are your constants. And so we are now going to take on the tasks, and I try to give you a heads up of this back at chapter 5. Given a trinomial, can we factor it so that we have two terms that multiplied together will produce that trinomial? Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to go back to chapter 5 here real quick and kind of re-show you when you do FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. Let's just take an example here and say x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 5. And if I did FOIL, first, outer, inner, last, you would come up with, here's your first term, outer term, inner term, last term. Notice the outer and the inner. I always like to use those pairing lines. Okay, kind of keep that in mind here. We're going to be using that here in a little bit. And so when I did FOIL, first term was x squared, the outer and inner combined to negative 2x, and the last term was minus 15. Okay, so there we go. We love doing FOIL. It's easy. Now the challenge is start with this. Start with the trinomial and ask yourself, can you figure out what the factors are? Okay, now this is very specialized, so when you have a trinomial, you're going to factor it, and you are going to start off with and ask yourself, can you pull out a GCF? Always remember rule number 1. A lot of times you look at that and you're not going to pull out a GCF, but you must always look for it. Okay, can't overemphasize that. Next, give yourself a set of parentheses. These represent the two binomials that you're going to multiply, and now we've got to figure out what goes inside them. Okay, this technique, as you can see here, I like to call it, in the book calls it too, is reverse FOIL. That means you're going to go in the opposite direction, but it's a little trickier, and I try to tell my students it's kind of like when you learn how to drive a stick and you've got a clutch. You first always learn how to go in first gear, and getting started from a dead stop to first is always the hardest part, but then once you get a little bit of momentum going, you get into second and third, and it's actually kind of fun and you do good. The tricky part is if you were in a parking lot and you got to put in reverse, and you got to let you push in the clutch, and then as you start to push down on the gas, you let out on the clutch, and if you give it too much, you know what's going to happen. You're going to pull out too fast, but you're backing up and turning. It's a lot harder to learn how to do reverse. So that's what I'm trying to get you to think about here. So I like to call it FLOY. The steps are first, last, outer, inner, working together. First, last, outer, inner, or reverse FOIL. Okay, so we're taking this problem. This is the original problem up here. The trinomial x squared minus 2x minus 15. We are trying to factor it. What two sets of parentheses multiplied together would produce that trinomial? Now, the first thing you do is F. What times what produces your first term, x squared? Good news is a lot of times when that coefficient a is a 1, it's pretty easy. It's x and an x. X times x gives you x squared. Okay, now the next hard part here is you go down and do L. What times what produces the last term? Okay, now, so I like to be organized and neat, and I like to take the minus 15 and think of factors. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Negative 1 times 15 is a negative 15. Okay? So this is kind of a trial and error and a guessing process here. And what I like to do now is I like to have my students take your best guess, because what happens is you ask, a lot of times you'll hear the phrase, what two factors of the third term multiplied together give you the third term of negative 15 but add up to the middle term of negative 2x. Now, as long as the a term, which is a 1 here, you could say that guideline and follow it. I like to always make sure the students put the pairing lines for the inner and the outer, and then I come up with a cute little phrase. I call it unlock the safe. Okay, now I come up with this idea from watching the movie Ocean's 11 and Ocean 12, and Eddie Murphy just had a new movie about a high-rise condo penthouse that the people were getting taken advantage of, and they went up to the 3rd floor of the penthouse where the rich guy lived, and they had to get into the safe and they had to unlock it. So I want you to pretend you're safe crackers here. You need to find the right combination of the third term that when you put them into the slots here, into the second slots, that the inner multiplied by the inner and you multiply the outer will produce the middle term. So therefore you're unlocking the safes. Okay, and hopefully you've seen that Ocean's 11 and 12. I thought it was a great movie there. Their idea in that movie was to go to Vegas and they were going to rob a bank, or not rob a bank, rob a casino. Down in the basement area there was these big safes with all their money stashed in there. So they had to come up with the whole scheme. It's a pretty funny movie. If you get a chance to watch it, it's pretty good. Okay, so let's get back to our task here. Can we unlock the safe? I picked -1 times a positive 15 to produce the third term. I'm now sticking them in here. I get a -1x for the inner. I get a positive 15x. You're going to add them up. -1 plus 15 is -14. Did we unlock the middle term? And the answer is what? No, we failed. Okay, so think of when you watch those tumblers in a lock, you're turning them left, you're turning them right, and when the pro safe crackers can do it, they hear and they know when they've got those tumblers set just right that they've got the pathway open. Okay, that's our goal. Now, let's try this. Let's pick on -3 and positive 5. Sorry, that's a positive. We're doing multiplication up here. Stick them into the second term. -3 times a positive 5 is a -15, the third term. Okay, put them in. Does it unlock the safe? Inner, -3x. Outer, 5x. Always add them. -3 plus 5x is 2x. You're like, ooh, I'm looking good, except for one little minor detail. Yes, you need a negative. Strike 2. Now, here's the good news. If you ever get the same coefficient but the wrong sign, all you have to do is switch the signs from negative to a positive, to a positive to a negative, and then double check. So here's your inner term is 3x, your outer term is -5x. Running out of space. There you go. And when I add them up, what do you get? -2x. Bingo, we unlocked the safe. This is your factored form of and that's your answer. I'm trying to say that's your answer of taking the trinomial and writing in factored form. Why is it factored? Remember, between two parentheses, what's always going on, class? I say it 100 times. Multiplication. The binomial x plus 3 times the binomial x minus 15. When you do FOIL correctly, will produce and boomerang back the original problem. Okay, Mr. McHugh here. That's a lot of talk there. Hopefully you remember this from 025. Reverse FOIL, or FLOI as I like to call it, first, last, outer, inner. That's the order. And we're going to wrap this up here. We're going to give that's a hard section here, so we finished it up. When I see you in the next video, we'll be working on page 2. Okay, so I'll say adios for now. Bye.